Hey YouTube, this is We All Juggle Knives. Now this is going to be a re-upload of my Quartermaster Knives Mr. Roper review, but with this segment in the beginning explaining some things. Alright, in the review, which is going to be after this segment, people noticed that the centering was quite off. Well, what happened, the centering, came like this. But as I kept opening it, the pivot bolt got a little bit loose. And so the centering drifted almost to touching that scale. Now I have since readjusted the pivot bolt using an Allen key. And so now this is the new centering. This is how it is. Okay, so when you watch the review after this, you'll see that this centering, it's still off center, but after readjusting it, it has improved. Okay, so that is basically the centering that you get. Not as bad as the pre-adjusted centering that I showed in the video. Okay, point number 2, in the review I said this is a stonewash finish. It is stonewashed, but this is what they call their Texas T finish. They put a PVD, a black coating on it, and then they stonewash it. Okay, so it is a stonewash, but there's more that goes into it than that. It's their Texas T finish, so I just wanted to add that. Also, in the review, I referred to this as a clip point tip design. Quartermaster Knives refers to it as a modified drop point. The reason I call it a clip point is because I got this from Blade HQ and they were listing it as a clip point. Alright, and I don't like to contradict, the main store that sells it, because then people correct me for correcting them, if you know what I mean. Right, so modified drop point, I can definitely see how it could also be considered a modified clip point, but whichever. And point number 4, some people thought I gave too much credit to Quartermaster Knives because this is a Warren Thomas design. But, if he's working as a designer for them, I meant, Quartermaster Knives and their entire team, especially custom knife maker Warren Thomas. So I was not trying to shortchange him. Yeah, this is based on his designs. But his designs are basically all titanium chisel ground, and a lot of them are smaller than this, so this is an EDC-ized steel version. Very good idea. Some people said you can't just lump him in with Quartermaster, it's a collaboration. Okay, well, then Quartermaster was smart for collaborating with him and smart for approving the prototype he gave them, and very smart for making this knife, manufacturing it to very high standards, so I give credit to both of them. Alright, so I just wanted to cover those 4 points in the pre-review, and now let's roll in the actual review. Hope you enjoy it. This has been We All Juggle Knives. From Quartermaster Knives, this is the Mr. Roper folding knife. Weighs in at about 4 ounces, blade length 3 inches. The blade steel, CPM 154, that is Crucible Particle Metallurgy. The handle material is titanium, and it is a frame lock. Has a nice dark stonewash on the blade. And overall, this knife is a very serious contender in the category of higher-end production knives that are designed as everyday carry utility cutting tools. Here is the display side of the knife. I really like the look of that titanium, the titanium gray set off with the really dark stonewash. That two-tone, extremely attractive, and overall the look of this knife, it's reminiscent of designs such as the Sebenza classic titanium frame lock in terms of being very minimalistic and just a very clean design. And here is the lock bar side of the knife. You see that very dark stonewash is continued on the pocket clip which is set up for right side tip up carry, right? And overall, nicely done with as far as the looks of that pocket clip. Here is a close-up of the blade itself. You can see it has a thumb ramp with some jimping on it. It is a partial hollow grind with a top swedge. Now this steel is CPM 154. Chemically, that is the same as 154 CM. However, it has undergone the CPM process, which is Crucible Particle Metallurgy. Now, I don't want to get overly technical, so you can look up the details of that yourself, but I'll summarize it by saying that is a process which removes irregularities from the steel. In other words, this does not have strong points and weak points at a microscopic level. It makes it uniform, removes irregularities, which in turn is just very good for the performance of the steel. Here is a closer look at the knife. You see it has a cutout on the right side to get at the opening hole. These slabs of titanium are actually very thick, which is good. Extremely sturdy design. See the stop pin there, and it is open construction. Now the centering on the knife I got is off to the right. All right, as far as the opening, I am left-handed, so let's see how that goes. It is very easy to open. If you are a lefty, don't worry that it's a frame lock. Yeah, no problem for me as a lefty opening it with the left hand. As far as opening it with the right hand, I do have a little trouble getting my fingers off the lock bar just because this is my offhand. Okay, but I'm sure if you are right-handed it would be, far easier. But the main thing is basically this is good for right-handed people and good for left-handed people. Now the lockup, like so, looks to be at about 45%. And there is no blade play. It is very sturdy, rock-solid lockup. As far as the overall ergonomics, well, you've got a bit of a finger choil there. Nice. Then you got the thumb ramp here. Very pointed for starting cuts. Be a nice little slicer. You have a very small pinky ramp right there. You have jimping on the lock bar. It is easy to disengage. And as far as the strength of the detent, it's strong. It's not going to accidentally come loose in your pocket, but it's not so strong as to inhibit smooth opening. So the strength of the detent is medium, as it should be. Initial sharpness. Very slow cuts here. Initial sharpness, it's good. Yes, it's high. I would give it an A. I mean, you can do very slow cuts. You can stop the cut and start it again. So good job on initial sharpness. And here is a size and shape comparison between the Mr. Roper knife and some very strong competitors in the small everyday carry production knife category. Starting at the left, that is the ZDP 189 version of the Spyderco Delica. Next to that, you got the Fantoni Hyde from Italy. Next to that is the Brous Blades Bionic. Then we have the Quartermaster knife. Next to that is a Benchmade 531 with the G10 handle scales. Next to that is a Benchmade Emissary. And next to that is a Enzo Burke 75. Yes, so you can see tons of extremely strong competition in this category of knife. What you should see here is that the Quartermaster knife, the handle on that is a bit longer than these other knives, and it's also a bit thicker. So particularly if you have larger size hands, that might be one factor to consider. Now, the only knife here that is more costly than the Quartermaster knife is that Fantoni hide from Italy, a great knife in itself. But the Quartermaster knife is the only knife here that gives you titanium. Right? It's the only knife here that's a titanium frame lock. So if you favor that configuration, it's very nice to be able to get that for under $200. Now, I've done reviews of all of these knives, and they are all very, very good blades. So if you're interested in one, just look up that review. All right, but I hope this gives a good idea of the size, and look at the variety of different blade shapes and handle shapes. Really, kind of a golden era in the knife world, especially in this particular category. Many options for the cutlery enthusiast here. So how would I rate this knife overall? Very highly. All right, let's go through the different factors that go into that. First of all, the lockup, I would give an A+ rating. It is very solid. The overall construction of the knife, I would also have to give an A+ rating, because for the 4-ounce weight, it's hard to see how this would be more sturdy than it is. It is extremely sturdy as far as the thickness of the titanium slabs, the size of that pivot screw, and the lockup. So overall construction gets an A+. The blade shape, as far as the functionality of that clip point, well, it's a classic design, and that's because it's always worked. Very pointed for starting cuts, and then a nice little slicer. So for everyday tasks for this size of knife, yeah, I give that blade shape an A+ in functionality. As far as the steel, I would give that an A, especially because of the CPM process. It's not an A+ because there are super steels out there, but it gets a very solid A. Initial sharpness also gets an A. I've seen sharper, but this is still high sharpness for a production knife. As far as appearance, that also gets an A+ for several reasons. I understand it's personal preference, but there are still some universal principles of design. First of all, the colors. The two-tone works very well together. That dark, rich stonewash, slightly weathered look, very attractive. Stonewash is the most popular blade finish among cutlery enthusiasts, like folding knife enthusiasts, that I speak to. The blade shape, also a classic. So all those things put together, plus just that minimalist look, again, reminds you of a Sabenza. All those things put together, yeah, I give this an A+ in aesthetics. As far as the ergonomics of opening, the opening hole and the smoothness of the pivot, with my dominant hand, I would give this a B+ in terms of deployment. With my non-dominant hand, I don't know how I would rate that. I mean, I'm obviously gonna use this on my dominant side, right? So B+ in the area of deployment. Okay, so that is quite a few A's and A+. So that's how I break it down. Really a super strong competitor within its category. Kind of a shock. I've seen Quartermaster knives before, but this is the first one that jumped out at me as a must-have. And seeing this, it makes me really enthusiastic to see what else they might come up with in the future. This is pretty much putting them on the map, at least in this category of knives. It almost sets a new standard, because it's hard to think of really well-made titanium frame locks for under $200. I guess there's You know, there's the TI version of the Spyderco Sage, but it's pretty hard to find such a well done TI frame lock in this price range. So they are definitely upping the ante. And your Quartermaster knife will come with basically a birth certificate saying when it was made. As you can see, this is number 120 out of 300. Very nice. You know, with all the screw-ups in the knife world, it's great to see, you know, some company that plans it out and then executes it precisely and then offers it to you. Well, I gotta say, well done. All right, I hope you enjoyed this review. This has been We All Juggle Knives. I'm out.